Bonjour à tous.
A few months ago, for the launch of Motors TV, we presented the first of our docs, Formula One 1979. You obviously enjoyed it. So here is the next installment, Formula One 1980. All the same teams are back again, Williams, Ligier, Renault, Brabham, all after the world title, more than anything else. It was the French challenge aimed at all the different crowns that year that drew attention, and you will see that Lafitte, Pironi, Jabouille and Arnoux really weren't all that far from taking the titles. 20 years later, in any case, they haven't forgotten any of it. Formula One 1980, we're off. The 1980 season starts, as was the tradition at the time, with an early South American tour. As early as the first fortnight in January, they set off in the direction of Buenos Aires for the Argentinian Grand Prix, and whichever way you looked at it, Formula One seemed to be in a hot spot. The 1980 season seemed to be placed under an argumentative, not say mutinous star. In Argentina, the drivers protested about the state of the track, and not without reason. They were so furious that they threatened to strike, but because of a lack of unanimity, their resolution failed when faced with the rigid attitude of the organizers and the stable bosses. They are paid and well paid. They have got to drive, declared Bernier Ecclestone, the head of the Constructors Association. There are a few bitter memories. Two track exits, one pit stop. Despite that Alain Jones won it, no one had ever seen anything like it. The French were way back, only the beginner Alain Prost making it to the finish in 6th position. The young Nelson Piquet was second behind Jones, a foretaste of things to come. In Argentina, Formula One went off course. But 10 weeks later in Spain, it almost got lost altogether. A battle of force was taking place between the International Federation and the Constructors Association. In the balance was the real exercise of power. The smaller stables decided to organize the Grand Prix without official sanction. We are just sorting that out, just a few more minutes. But the big names all lined up in the opposite camp, and once again, through lack of unanimity, the revolt was to fail. Renault, in full agreement with Ferrari and Alfa Romeo, has decided not to take part in the warm-ups, which have no legal standing. For many years, the exclusive domain of small stables that were mainly British, Formula One was beginning to see the arrival of the big manufacturers, and it was their pressure that was to bring about this development that blew the lead off of the sport. The role of Renault in this respect is of the utmost importance. Until 1980, the turbo engine had been more of a curiosity than a real threat. It was known to have brilliant moments, but to be too temperamental to have its sights on the championship. Now, despite not getting it right in Argentina, Renault was to take the ascendant so clearly over the following 2 Grand Prix that its rivals began to believe that they would be definitely outclassed. Gérard Larousse still remained cautious. We have made progress, but we do yet have the reliability of a team like Williams, for example. Our car does not yet make our job any easier as it is using a new technique, and we are principally taking on the Ford engine, which is a bit simpler. We are using an engine that has been specifically designed to race, and we have to deal with all the problems ourselves.
Nous, de notre côté, nous utilisons un moteur qui est tout à fait spécifique, et bien entendu, nous essuyons nous-mêmes tous les problèmes.
The warm-ups for the Brazilian Grand Prix were fought out in a carnival atmosphere under the watchful eyes of Bernard Hinault, the director of Renault cars. Jabouille dominated them. Villeneuve's Ferrari was up there between the Jabouille's yellow car and Pironi's blue one. But it was only a flash in the pan, and the only time during the season that a Ferrari was to stick its nose out. World champion in 1979, Ferrari was reduced to the part of bit player in 1980. Things changed fast in Formula One. On the fast circuit at Interlagos, at 800 meters altitude, the Renaults were unbeatable on pure performance. Only the Ligiers were able to keep up with them thanks to their remarkable road holding. Jabouille was leading, but Lafitte remained menacing, until a minor ignition fault pulled him up. Third, Arnoux was fighting it out with the Angelis Lotus. But a little after halfway through the race, when the Renault double was in sight, Jabouille was the victim of a turbo breakdown, which meant that he had to abandon. Arnoux, though, had no problems, and having worn down the Angelis resistance, went on to the first Formula One win of his career. The victory of Renault at Sao Paulo was no surprise. What was more surprising was that it was René Arnoux, their second driver, who fulfilled the mission. It is a great pleasure for me to have won, especially here, because it is a very difficult circuit. It is physically hard. Very hard. I was afraid that I would not be able to keep the pressure up. Of course, well, I am very satisfied to have won the race, but also to have been able to keep up the pressure with no problems. When you overtook your teammate, Jean-Pierre Jabouille, what did you think? Well, honestly, I was really disappointed. On Thursday, we had big problems. We were 4 seconds behind the others, and Jean-Pierre found some excellent adjustments to make the car competitive. He really deserved to win, but that's racing. It is in the stable's interest to put 2 cars forward for the race, but Jean-Pierre's turn will come. The next Grand Prix was in South Africa, on a circuit that was even more favorable to the turbo. The fact is that at 1,800 meters altitude, atmospheric engines get a bit breathless, whilst the turbo is hardly affected by the lack of oxygen. A serious accident during the warm-ups. The Swiss Mark Störer comes off the track and suffers multiple fractures to his legs. The drivers consider that they are insufficiently protected in their seats. The Renaults, for their part, dominate the warm-ups, and there was never any doubt about the color of the front row. Jabouille takes pole position. Of course I am optimistic, but I haven't forgotten the Brazilian Grand Prix where I had a lead of about 10 seconds, and I had a problem. I will try and avoid the same thing happening, and if the same doesn't happen, I will be almost certain to win. Before the start, the Renault Alps stand monopolized all the attention.